text her in the morning,
about
stress her out.
maybe a month ago. It was just
Yeah, make it like a little whatever Mardi Gras thing.
you gotta bring your wallet.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta come represent.
Bro,
yeah.
we got
I'm mad that I'm not gonna go that
me and her
fucking
and
day.
a 4-year-old, and we got
Alrighty, everybody. Something like that.
I got him a kids pack,
That's what I get for
which came with a drink, and we got some pretzels,
All right.
some sliders, and everything.
Calling meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. The time is 4:45 at Hammond City Council Chambers.
Hang on 1 second. Oh, I've got this phone. I need to turn it off. Sorry about that. Got it.
All right. Can we have verification of meeting notice?
Posted 24 hours in advance on our website, City Council Chambers, and our office.
All right, good deal. A roll call?
I'm gonna just do it like this because we don't have them written down. Justin Cash. Here. Todd DeLon.
Here.
Chance Kinchin.
Here.
Mary Gito. Here. Kayla Morgan. Here. John Exnicious.
Here.
Hillary Rawchek. Here.
All right.
Almost no hesitation that time.
Do we have any amended agenda items that we need to discuss? You did say that some of these topics we weren't going to be able to vote on. Should we amend to remove
We
the
can discuss
agenda?
them.
Okay, we can discuss them. Okay. All right. Next is the presentation. We have Andre here to present to us. Yes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself to those I've not met. My name is Andre Coudrain. I'm the Hammond City Attorney. That makes me the Chief Legal Advisor to the Mayor, the City Council, all the city boards and commissions. And even though the DDD is technically a state agency created by state statute, I do provide legal advice when requested to you, Michelle, and yourselves. I will tell you, as Michelle knows, that I'm available within my schedule to come to your meetings, attend your meetings. If there's a particular hot button item that you think may implicate you or the process, I'm happy to attend. So I want to make you aware of that. So I know you've got a long agenda. I could not make your orientation, which is when I would typically give you more information than I'm going to give you tonight on basically the legal world of being a public official. So you may have noticed that magic moment when the City Council voted and said, I accept your appointment as a member of the DDD. You know, whatever struck you at the time meant that you are now a public official in state law. That's got some real world consequence, right, to you guys and to us. So before I get into that, I want to thank you for your service. Hammond doesn't happen without volunteers. DDD doesn't happen without volunteers. So I want to thank you for your service. But as a public official, I need to make you aware that there are laws, rules, requirements that impact your operations as a DDD board member. So you are created by state law, by state statute that creates the Hammond Downtown Development District. It provides for your authority and your responsibility. And your responsibility is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Hammond and the downtown area. The state law prescribes how many members you have, what's your eligibility for office, and such. All of that is required under state law. So when Michelle comes to you to put requirements for your eligibility for office, that's because it's required by state law. So state law does require city council approval for your budget. Law does require your master plan that you'll maybe get into later on in the meeting, and does require city council approval of that master plan for the downtown development district. Practical things to take into mind. Also the UDC. The Unified Development Code does give certain authorities by vote of the City Council for the DDD, the Design Review Committee and such. All that's set out in the UDC. So those are all rules, state law, UDC. For many of you in the private world, when you come from the private world and you're paying job, it's different. So in the private world, unless a law says you can't do it, or unless it's illegal, you can do it. Flip the public world. In the public world, you can only do those things the law gives you authority to do. Flipped. It's an entire different world. So that's why sometimes you'll say you can't do it because the law doesn't let you do it. The law doesn't give you authority to do it. And that's either state law or the city's Unified Development Code. So that's something to pay attention to. The things you do must be authorized by state law or the UDC. Open meetings. The reason why you go through the process of agendas, the reason why you go through publishing, notification, is because the law requires it. So there are formalities in your meetings. The public has to be given an opportunity to comment on an item that comes before you. So you need to allow for that. The meetings need to have a prescribed agenda. You really should not entertain matters or at least have any substantive discussion on a matter that's not on your agenda, because that would be potentially a violation of the open meetings law. You've got to have your agenda. You've got to have minutes. You have to vote to approve those minutes, and those minutes have to be posted. Public records. Public records, including cell phone, text messages, email messages. If you are sending a message, a written message, text, email, that involves the business of the Downtown Development District, that is a public record. That is subject to disclosure. That is subject to being shown if there's a public records request, which the law allows the public to examine records of public bodies. Be careful what you put in a text message, in an email message involving DDD business. If it's something you don't want your mama to see, don't put it in there, because it could be seen. So, and innocently, in the private world, in our personal world, we get very familiar in things we put in text messages. Please be aware, if you're involving a text message, an email message on a matter involving DDD business, it's a public record. You also can't destroy public records. So pay attention to that. How you use your personal devices, how you might use an email message can be examined as a part of the public record. Ethics. Here's another code of governmental ethics. You're required to do ethics training. You're required to fill out forms on disclosures. You can't put yourself basically generally in a conflict of interest situation, which might be that the things you're voting on you have a personal interest in. I mean, the classic example we had in previous is one of the commissioners might own a business that does catering. She can't cater for DDD events because it's a conflict of interest in her personal business in DDD. So unfortunately, those of you guys in that service, as a lawyer, if I were a lawyer on the commission, I can't do legal work for the commission. There's a conflict of interest in my personal business and in the business of the DDD. That includes family members. It includes spouses, brothers, sisters, in-laws, parents, and such. They're also exempted. If you've got this bad feeling about there's something coming up that I may have a conflict with, bring that to Michelle's attention. She'll consult with me. We can talk about it. We may want to get an opinion. I don't give ethics opinions because there's an ethics board that gives opinions. But I can certainly help walk it through with you to see, even if it is potentially an issue. Sometimes it's just not. You're being careful. But that's certainly an event that you want to be more careful about than not. Fiscal management, budgetary restraints. You've got a budget. You've got a budget that's got to be approved by the council. You can't really stray away from your responsibility and spend the money that's not been appropriated or spend money that's not been approved. So the big takeaways, your meetings, public records, ethics, your financial management and ability to spend money. You are regulated by state law. You're regulated by the Unified Development Code. And as the lawyer who tries to help you guys out, I'm happy to catch me at the grocery store, catch me at the ball field, you know, catch me at a social event, catch me at the restaurant, catch me at the bar. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have on these things. But I want to leave with thanking you again for your public service. I'm available to answer questions as might come up tonight or otherwise. Thank you. Good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So next up, minutes from December 11th, 2024.
Quick question, Andre. So a public body is required to have a motion for meeting approval,
Yes.
but for Robert's Rules of Order,
So basically, Robert's Rules is sort of like the default rule on how do I conduct a meeting. There are some differences, because Robert's Rules doesn't necessarily give a lot of direction on public bodies. So you've got to have an overlay of the Louisiana law on open meetings. But yes, so the law requires a voice vote, recording vote on every item that you take. You've got to record what item are you voting on, who made a motion, who made a second. And then a voice vote could be a roll call vote, right, is traditional. Or a voice vote could be, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, nay. If you can identify who the ayes are and who the nays are, that needs to be recorded in your minutes. But yes, every item that requires an action must have a motion, have a second, allow for public input, allow for debate, and then you take a vote that is recorded. Does that help you? Does that answer your question? So your minutes, right? I typically advise not to lump your motions. I move to approve items 7, A, B, C. I typically don't like that in fairness to board members and in fairness to the public. Board members may want to vote no on item B and yes on A and C. So as a courtesy to board members, I typically recommend that you take those items up. I see you have a consent agenda on here, and I don't know if that was intended to be like a one vote for all three.
So last year we kind of, I think we had some assistance on like restructuring our board agendas. If you would recommend that we move that under a different section or call it something different.
It's your agenda, right?
Yeah.
So you all can call it as you want. The biggest thing is to have it posted, published. The big thing is to take a vote on each item that requires action, and you record that vote in minutes. Those minutes get approved, and those minutes get, published.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, but if you want to call it a consent agenda, I still recommend, my advice is you take individual votes on each one.
So with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from December 11th, 2024.
Second.
Justin Cash.
So what I would just say traditionally, is there any questions or comments? Anybody have any changes to the minutes? Is there any public input?
Yep. Okay, so is there any questions or comments that anybody has concerning that?
Generally so once a motion is on the table, should
Now
questions
we're
or
already
comments
done.
come
Yeah.
before a motion is made?
Yes.
It's all dependent on the will of the group, right? Sometimes somebody wants to make your comment from now this is a minute, so it's not
Right.
that big, right? But on substantive items, a member might want to hear comment from other board members before they actually make a motion or second it. You can still have debate on a motion and a second after it's been made. You still have to allow public comment before you take a vote. So you would ask, traditionally it would be, the chairman, somebody makes a motion second. Is there any comment, any questions, any changes needed, any public comment? I like to advise, if there's no public comment, put in your minutes there was no public comment.
Now, there's plenty of times that there's no public here. I still have to keep saying it, or can we just put it in the
You have
notes?
to keep a record.
So just keep saying
You have to keep a record.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I forget, so,
Yeah,
okay.
keep a record.
And then if a member was not present for the meeting in which we are considering approval for the meeting minutes,
should not.
Should they,
So that's on the member, right? So so there are some, if they were not at the meeting, they vote to abstain because I don't know what went on at that meeting, right? Well, there are some members who might think, well, I mean, I knew there was a meeting. I know Michelle does a good job capturing the minutes. I really don't have any question about it. I'll vote to approve it. That's on the members, what you're comfortable voting on. You know, if there's an item, so you talk about abstain, you talk about recusal. Recusal is when you really have what might be a personal conflict of interest, even though it's not a legal conflict of interest. Now, that may happen. Then you recuse yourself, okay? Which means you really shouldn't participate in the debate. Abstain means, well, I really don't have enough information. I'd like to have more information. If you guys want to vote on it, that's okay with you, but I'm personally feel like I need more information, or I was not present at the meeting, I don't know what happened. That would be abstaining from a vote. Abstaining from a vote, you still count as a quorum for your meeting, but you still have to have a majority vote to approve it. So abstain is almost like a no vote.
And then to verify, technically for a recusal, you should really walk out of the room for the conversation?
Yeah, so that becomes, so you're and another distinction in the law is an appointed official compared to an elected official. They're treated differently. Elected officials have a little more leeway in the recusal. So, for example, if you have some involvement in an action coming before here, the old school is you just don't participate and you basically walk out of the meeting so as to not influence it, so you're not even here. Now, if you're not in the meeting, you're just voted as not present, right? Because you're absent. You walk out of the meeting, it happens at city council all the time, for those of you who watch it. I mean, that council members in and out. When a council member leaves the room, we got to put council member leaves the meeting because you call for a vote and there's no answer. Well, why is there no answer? Because he's absent. So we make a notation that the council, that member is recorded as being absent. John, I'll leave that to you. I don't think you have to necessarily leave the building. You could sit in the, whatever you're comfortable with. Do not participate in the discussion
Conversation,
or the
yeah,
debate.
right.
And when the time comes to call for a vote, you would say, I recuse. I
Yep.
recuse myself.
Okay.
And really, again, if you want to get an A+ on your paper, there ought to be a notation, John Ixnicius recuses himself from consideration of this matter. And that way you're just eliminated it all. That's to get A+ on your paper.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes, and we had a second.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I asked that.
And then you'd say, I call
Okay.
for a vote.
Okay, call for a vote.
Justin Cash,
Vote yes.
Todd DeLon,
Yes.
James Kinchin, Mary Guito,
Yes.
Kayla Morgan,
Yes.
John Ixnicius,
Yes.
Hillary Rauchek.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the February 7th, 2025 meeting.
That's the retreat. I'll second it.
Okay, so any comments? Any comments from the public? We go call for a vote?
Justin Cash,
Yes.
Todd DeLon,
Yes.
James Kinchin,
Yes.
Mary Guito, Kayla Morgan,
Yes.
John Ixnicius.
Yes.
Hillary Rauchek.
Yes.
Hang on one second, let me see why these things.
All right.
Yeah, great. I didn't bring my glasses.
So I'd like to,
Well, we have
are we
I
starting?
mean, see.
I guess she's trying to get it up there.
Experiencing technical difficulties, please stand by.
You can
There we
continue, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the January financial statement.
Second.
Okay. Do you have any questions, or is there anything that needs to be stated on this that you need to point out?
For 2024, loans that were paid off were Nicholas Muscarello, Mendez, LLC, Christopher Daniel. We have a active record for delivery. Sorry. We are cleaning up the livery. You see that there's one payment remaining, but we're cleaning them up and they're paid off. So we have had basically four loans paid off for 2024. And just so that you're all aware, with the city's new finance director, Carolyn Howard, we are, this is basically, there were some journal entries that were behind for some of our past meetings, but all this is updated as of January 31st of this year. And you can see our actual year-to-date expenditures on the second page. For our new board members, this is probably the first time that you've seen it. So if you have, or like really taking a look at it, I did upload it to your packets. So our second page is kind of like our balance sheet, and reflects our month expenditure and year-to-date expenditure.
All right. Do you have any comments from the public on this? Nope. Can we get a vote to approve?
Do we have first
Oh.
and second?
I thought we did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Mary
Uh,
made a motion, Kayla seconded.
Kayla second. Okay. Justin Cash,
Yes.
Todd DeLon,
Yes.
Chance Kinchin,
Yes.
Mary Gito,
Yes.
Kayla Morgan,
Yes.
John Exnicius.
Yes.
Hillary Rotcheck.
Yes.
All right. Up next, director's report.
Quickly. So this is our, other than our retreat, our first regular meeting of the year. So just kind of wanted to update you a little bit on some of our ongoing projects. The welcome sign was completed in December. Last time we discussed the welcome sign, we had some administrative things that we're working out related to the fees that we're collecting for it. It's basically a $25 per week advertisement, and that rate was set by Charles Borscher, the city administrator. We are setting up an account for those fees to go into to pay for the electricity and the maintenance of the sign. Prior, the mayor had indicated that he wanted us to pay for the electricity, so now that we have that fee in place and the account set up for the maintenance and electricity costs, that will be funneled into there. We've had several folks reach out in the start of the year to utilize the sign, so the form and process to get the artwork approved on there is set now. I do believe that they're still adding the form on the city's website, but if you know of any nonprofits or groups that normally display their vinyl sign in that area, let them know that the digital sign is available to them, and hopefully a little bit easier and less expensive than having to spend several $100s on a vinyl banner that they might have to replace every year. And we've also been utilizing it for conferences. We put something up there for the Super Bowl. There's several things at Southeastern that are being hosted this year, so it's been a really great tool, and the feedback has been really great on that.
And not that I'm opposed to it at all or anything, but I'm just going back to whenever we discussed the sign. And I think it looks great, and I love how it talks about the soccer stuff going on there. But I thought when we first went back, we weren't really looking for businesses to advertise, or
Yeah,
that wasn't the plan for that sign.
that's not the plan. So
Okay.
basically, prior to the digital sign being there, any nonprofit or community-based
They hung the
event.
banners,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that standard is kind of set. No, we're not selling advertisements to
Okay, okay.
businesses.
Nonprofits or,
Okay, I was just making sure it wasn't gonna be a billboard.
Yeah, it's not a billboard. Any other questions about the welcome sign? So pavilion project is still underway. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the meeting. We are hosting the stage dedication for Marguerite Walter on Friday, March 7th at 2 p.m. You should all have that in your calendar to attend. Marguerite will be with us that day and her family. Johnny Chauvin will be doing some remarks and a couple of others. We are trying to get a couple of maintenance items done in the park before the 7th, including cleaning the brick, some tree items, getting both of the water fountain in Rower Park is actually not working right now, so we have a work order submitted for that. The decorative fountain has been very difficult to have maintained, so we have a work order for that. We are also going to be utilizing some of the funds that were left over from the donations for the sign to change the color of the letters to a light gray color instead of a black of what they are now, just because it's not as visible. And we are also utilizing one of the 16 by 24 capstone pavers that is part of the seat wall in the park to do an engraved message that basically says Marguerite Walter, and it's just a quick message that says what she did for downtown, the restoration of Columbia Theater, and that we dedicate the stage in her honor. So I'll be dropping that off tomorrow in Walker to get that engraved and installed the week of the dedication. So everything's been shaping up for it, but it will be a short and simple ceremony to honor Marguerite.
How are we on? Is everybody kind of pretty much able to at least attend?
I was planning to attend, but I'm going to be in Orlando now
Okay.
today, so I won't be able to.
I mean, if we can get as best of a showing as possible. She's the OG, you know?
She's the original DDD director.
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, first time.
Yeah.
I'll be there for a little bit.
If you haven't gotten the invite, Andre, you are invited.
Good thing you're in this meeting, Andre.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, as you know, we have our community priority survey out right now. I think when we checked it today, how many responses?
When I last checked it, it was at 2:11. I don't know if it's gone. That was literally a few minutes before
Yeah.
we left to come here. So.
So we have a good number of responses, but when we talk about the master plan, we'll kind of get into a little more details about that. We have been awarded our grant from Louisiana Main Street to basically get the 10 intersections from Cherry to Oak along Thomas and Morris redesigned for traffic calming measures. Ray Scriber let us know last week that we were awarded. So the contract will basically come through the Louisiana Main Street Managers Association. So it'll be a contract between them and Holly and Smith, who submitted the proposal. And we will be working closely with I let Charles know what the city and Frankie, the city planner, know about this upcoming project. So our first step is going to be to meet with them, introduce the scope, and make sure that we are planning with the city in mind, and obviously meeting all of DOTD requirements as we are looking at all intersections that are on a state highway. So more to come with that. The project needs to be complete by the end of this calendar year, so we have a little bit more time than the fiscal year, and most of our work will probably either be incorporated into the design committee and in this setting, but we are definitely taking a collaborative approach with the city departments.
The project, the design of it, not the, or the implementation of it, which one has to be done by the end of the year?
The contract is for design and construction documents.
Okay.
So this is not construction money or implementation money. So to get the construction documents done, it's by the end of the calendar year. So this is actually one example of some of the work that we had did last year to get Louisiana Main Street appropriated more money through the state. So they were able to offer these technical assistance grants to communities that they haven't been able to do before. So we're looking forward to having that kick off. Any questions about that?
I'm excited about it. It's definitely needed.
Yes, a great alignment with our master plan discussion, complete streets and building safe intersections to make sure that downtown is walkable. We have been working with the Historic District on a few items with the kickoff of this year. One big takeaway that was a result of actually the Historic District meeting today. Heather and I had already been discussing developing a pre-application review committee, which basically would include, and Mary would probably mention some of this, but an update today is that the mayor is supportive of developing a pre-application review committee which would include historic district members, design committee members, historic district coordinator, downtown development district director, the city planner, and the building official, so that when we're looking at projects that are affected by overlay districts, that everyone's kind of brought in from the inception of a project, so that it makes the development process flow a little bit quicker and more efficiently for us and for the developer side of things. The mayor did speak in support of Frankie kind of owning this through the planning department, which I feel is really great. It's definitely kind of moving in the right direction of getting the city's processes recognized and streamlined to where we want them to be, so that we don't have issues like Willow Pharmacy and some other issues that we've had with the DDD review being overlooked, because check and overlay districts can be a challenge. So I think everything's moving in a good direction with related to that. We did set, there was no motion made, but there was a rough deadline set to have something by the next historic district meeting in place for a procedure, which would be March 19th. So more to come related to that. We also are looking to collaborate with them on some cleanup projects in Kate Square Park. The statues and plaques are out there, need some work. So working with Keep Hammond Beautiful and Love the Boot Week, trying to add on a beautification project for that. The Historic District talked about potentially using some of their funds to assist with that, but it can also be collaborative. We have scrub brushes and buckets and things for volunteer days. So Dara is going to kind of be coordinating that with Heather, since I'll actually be out of town in Philadelphia that week. And then we have an opportunity to get our historic walking tour kind of maybe reimagined or back up and going. North Shore Media Group is hosting a Radio International, I can't remember what it's called, International Radio Idea Bank. It's basically radio station owners are coming to Hammond for their annual conference, and the opportunity for us is to host a guided walking tour to conference participants and their spouses as they're in town. So we are working with the Historic District to enhance the existing walking tour that they have on their website, which has been a big bucket list item for us for a long time, even just in conversations that Heather and I have had. So we're trying to use this opportunity as a way to really get it off the ground. Right now, it's really just live links on the Historic District's website, and there are audio recordings that people can use as a self-guided tour, but we want to give it some more interactivity and actually make it guided, and we will be hosting that on the 19th, so we're excited to see where that leads us. Questions about that? We have an intern, Paulette, with us this semester. You probably met her at the retreat. One thing that she is working on is a streetscape inventory, and it will be basically a Google Map inventory of our trash cans, trees, lampposts, electrical poles, and really anything else that the design committee thinks that we should include in this. So she's basically going around and basically giving us an inventory that we can use from year to year to help keep track of the maintenance of these things. So she's assessing the condition of things right now so that we can create a plan to either.
And that was
replace.
done already, this is done in a different format where it's being pinpointed on the map. Is that the deal?
I think it has been done in the past. It just hasn't been done in a comprehensive way that makes it easy to deliver to the city to get it implemented. So I had her do the trash cans in a different map format, but then I kind of had the thought yesterday that, this should really be interactive tool so that we can keep track of things a little bit easier, and as we work with the city, they can say, like, these sections, this is where all of it is. When we're talking to city departments that we've mapped it, we know where things are. So she has already, she's adding all the trash cans into here, but one takeaway from the meeting that I had with Charles is we received a grant for trash can liners back in September, and there had really been no work on on getting that to where it needed to be. We had actually delivered them information to get the trash can liners purchased, but things kind of fell through the cracks. So she went ahead and just did an entire assessment of all the trash cans in downtown, and we delivered that to Charles. But I think between all of our maintenance items that we have, trying to make it as easy as possible for the city departments to work with us in the maintenance of downtown, this is going to be a good tool for us to utilize.
Has there been any commitment on making the order to get these in? Or-
So I submitted it to Charles on, well, my next thing, well, not my next thing, but we now have an internal tracker of our work orders that we submit to the city. So I submitted the trash can request to Charles on the 14th. I haven't heard back yet. But I do know that the grant has to be completely utilized by the end of this fiscal year.
And what I was gonna say, I know that we're trying to do the cleanup park thing, but maybe to just kind of put a deadline on it, maybe that could be something we could say, hey, we're gonna have hands on the ground that we can go put all the new liners in if we get it done by
Yeah.
this date.
Yeah.
Maybe just give that as a date that we're trying to get them in.
Love a bit week, yeah.
Okay.
While we're on this topic, it's funny that you brought that up, but I actually had, being Valentine's weekend, I have one new employee, and I also had, obviously, new people are visiting for the holidays, or they come out to eat in different areas. The lighting in all the mall parking, at least directly in front of my restaurant and heading down past Salad Station, all that, like 70% of the light bulbs are out.
Yeah. So one thing I did last night actually was I submitted the work order yesterday. So there are 3 lampposts out in the parking lot across from Brady's. There are 3 out in the lot across from you.
There's more than 3.
Well, across the lot from you on your side.
Oh, okay.
On
yeah.
your side. And then the tall metal pole on the corner of by the salad station is out.
Yeah.
So they have everything. It's a total of 3. You can add
This is
them
my
together
new little
there.
hostess's mom. She was like,
Yeah.
I think it says
I was
9.
like, well, we always
Yeah.
walk everybody out, but
Yeah, it was very, very dark over
it's
there.
very, very dark.
So
So-
they have that. I spoke to the city electrician. They're actually gonna finish installing our cabinets and a shelf tomorrow in our office, and they're gonna come over and we're gonna take a look at it together. I did tag the ones in your lot and the lot across from Brady's. Did not tag the ones on the other side of Morris because I had my son with me and it was a little bit too dark. But I have Tom looking at the 3 that are out in the parking mall where the pavilion's being built, because I think the power is disconnected for those.
Gotcha.
So that's an active item that has been
Yeah.
delivered to the city.
Funny that it just came up.
Yeah. Well, Tom actually, I think, I don't know, maybe it was sometime last week, Tom said it was like, oh, it's really dark over here. And I was like, well, why don't you tell me what's not working? And I had to go to the office to get my laptop yesterday, and I was like, oh, it actually is really dark over there. So as long as if we, like if,
It's noted.
yeah. But if you ever see anything that's not like
Well, I think
working,
it gets kind of weird because it kind of all happened at once.
yeah.
So I didn't know if like all the light bulbs were on. But
I wonder if it could be a disconnect from the construction, I mean,
Yeah.
or all of it, I mean.
So that's what
yeah.
Tom was looking
Yeah.
at for,
Also, we walked out in great detail last year, and I found out some really interesting things. So if anything was on a metal pole, it's owned by the city. If anything was on a wood pole, it's owned by Entergy. Entergy has a really cool website, which is mapped out like that, and you just go click the ones that need to be repaired, and they'll literally fix it
Yes.
within a week's time, too. So in case you run into anything that's on a wood pole, that's
Yeah.
not controlled by the city, so,
all of these are city.
yeah, okay. It's good to know.
And they have that website linked on on the streets
It's easy
department
to
website
use.
too. Okay. What else? I did go ahead and call DOTD just to see if I could get any lead on our striping request. I didn't get a last name, but Jason, who is over traffic and striping, he gave me his direct line. He did mention the striping that they had done recently at the intersection at 51. And he said that downtown is on the list, and he said late March, early April.
I'd like to make a motion to get Mary to call him.
Second.
Right, I let those checks been done.
Yeah. But I was actually surprised to even get someone and for him to know what I was talking about, because we submitted the request to Christine, who's the traffic engineer, last September, I think. So I'll just keep y'all updated.
Just
Okay.
give Mary the number anyway.
Yeah. For the sake of time, I'll be done. But everything else is there for you to reference if you have any questions about anything there.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Does anybody have any questions more for Michelle based on this report? Any comments from the public? All right, onward. Next up, the staff reports.
Do you want to go first or want me to go first?
All right, so far for my report, it looks like we have given out about, if I had to guess, about 520 or so of the hearts. We have 400 more hearts that can go out. Those will be distributed between the farmer's market and be passed out sometime within the next week, so they can all be utilized for the last week of February. Our stats as it sits, these are from January 1st to February 18th. For Facebook, it looks like we're kind of about where we need to be, but something I did notice about Instagram is we're kind of going down on views from non-followers. And something I did notice is, and I don't know if Kayla, if you have any thoughts on this, but our moms and some other businesses started like asking us to collaborate on their reels, and I accepted because we want to support downtown businesses and stuff. But I noticed that our views and our likes heavily went down after that. And it could just be, maybe that's when I paid attention, but I did notice after accepting all those collaborations, maybe it's just too much on our feed or something, but a lot of our.
Usually not the case.
Yeah, do you know
Yeah.
if you have any ideas on what we
I'll
could do
check
to make?
into it. It just could be the algorithm, that you're doing something different, but collaborations actually give you more views.
Okay, I'm still accepting them because it feels rude
Yeah.
not to.
No, I would have done that.
Cool.
It's showing up on 2 pages though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it could be that that particular post went down because they were viewing it on the other page. So when they came across it on your page, they just kind of flipped through it and didn't like it, but that's not a typical thing. But Instagram also can't be very controlled, so.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about anything going on with our social media or anything they'd like to see content-wise? Good job.
My report is pretty brief. I just quickly typed up some things I've been working on recently. Today, I actually just finished counting all the sweatshirts we just got in and putting them away and getting all the stuff updated on our BigCommerce and our website so people can start ordering them. I also updated some of our save the dates for our events this year to make sure that people have those dates. I wanted to get with you to start making Facebook events for all of those as well, just so people can be aware of when they are. We also updated our apartments listing, and we added our new board members to our website, and our new meeting times and all that were voted on at the retreat. All that's been updated. I've just mainly been keeping up with committee agendas and minutes for all of our committees and our board meetings. And Michelle mentioned earlier all of our loans that we're closing out, so handling some of those closeout statements, wrapping some of that up, making sure all of our records are up to date for that, and keeping our current loan applicants' records up to date and sending them annual loan statements for 2024. This week, I did a lecture for the History and Political Science lecture series that they usually do within the department. On Tuesday, I did that, so just kind of trying to make sure maintaining some relationships there at Southeastern, and then I just put a few things that are in my plans to make sure we're keeping up with in the next few days and weeks, helping Michelle and Heather work on the walking tour, getting all that situated. Mainly merch stuff, trying to see if reach out to some other businesses, some ideas that we had in discussions the other day. seeing if there are any other businesses, because right now only Bayou Booksellers has merch, but we want to get back in touch with them, see how that's been going, see if they need a restock, and then just trying to see if anyone else is willing to stock our merch and sell it. So,
For those who don't know, we just had cabinets installed in our office, which we desperately needed because we bought all this merch and we had no place to put it. So our office is still kind of like in transition, but it has been, we're literally looking forward to getting the merch out there. We're working with Marley to do another batch of photos, and we'll be getting some photos done so that we can push those sales and get the brand out there too.
Remind me.
Question on that, can we display some of the downtown stuff in our businesses to help you guys move product?
Yeah, that's one thing that she was talking about, getting that formalized, yeah.
I was gonna ask, are y'all
On the list.
strategically putting certain things in one place and then something else in another? Everybody's getting the same stuff if they wanna promote it, or I just didn't know how that's being handled. Or is it just Bayou Booksellers participating?
Just
or-
Bayou Booksellers right now.
yeah, we haven't really had the opportunity to discuss with any other businesses yet, but it's on the list of things.
'Cause we only had T-shirts and tote bags, and the sweatshirts were selling really well. We got a restock from the Old School maybe like a week and a half ago, so that's going to be more of a deployment in the weeks to come.
What about the stickers? I just see the stickers in there. Those, you are selling those?
Actually, we did just sell one, and some
Did
guy
we?
came and picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're only like $1.
Yeah, they're not, yeah, I would almost give those away.
Yeah, we
We
usually
have
do
been,
wind
yeah.
up giving them away, if I'm being honest. I feel like if we're going to sell a sticker, it should be like a little bit of a nicer sticker.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute, but
Yeah.
she did have them in there, and I was like, how much are these? And she was like, they're $1. I was like, oh.
Wait, and didn't y'all say like the profit margin on the sweatshirt's like $5 or something crazy?
We did, so initially when we bought from Romano Promo, their price was a little bit higher. The Old School price was, I think, maybe $10 cheaper per sweatshirt. So we have a better margin on that
A
now.
little bit better, okay.
However, their printing style is a little bit different, and we realized that the artwork on the back is a little bit thicker of a line. And it's not atrocious, but it's something for us to kind of work out in this, like, trying to get all of our merch, ordering, stocking, that's like a whole new thing that we're incorporating into our flow, if I'm being honest. I did meet with Romano Promo and kind of went through a lot of like the new branding assets that we would need with our brand update that we didn't have time to get to in the fall. So they're like obviously very willing to work with us, and it might be more feasible for us to work with them to develop a store so that they handle like ordering and fulfillment and shipping and all these types of things. So that will be something that we kind of talk about with the advertising marketing committee to kind of get our merch streamlined. But right now we have a good backstock of it. We need to get photos taken so that we can advertise it and kind of get out there. We always include it in our newsletters, but we can have stronger marketing efforts around getting it out there.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any comments for our assistant director group? Any comments from the public? All right, onward to the next. Advertising and marketing committee. Kayla, what you got?
We didn't have this meeting.
Did not.
We didn't have a quorum.
No, way to
So-
start the year, girl, huh?
Yeah, so we had to cancel it. We did, Darren and I reviewed was that the ad that I looked at? Okay, so we did work on the TNG Lifestyle ad, updating some of the designs. So that was really the main thing that we had to get done, that I was concerned. But yes, we have to reschedule for March and move all of our agendas to then, which I do want to add to that, having 3 objectives for the quarter for them to kind of play on each stream in my committee. And then I want to fill the vacant spot by taking someone from your committee. So,
And we have on the agenda discussion of open committee seats
yeah,
today, so.
that is it.
All right, next up, design. Mary?
Yeah, well, in contrast to that, we've had 3 meetings this week.
Overachiever.
We've had 1 regular meeting and 2 emergency meetings. So, we had our regular design committee meeting, and then we had to have, not an emergency meeting, what do we call those?
Special session.
Special session to review this, Michelle kind of mentioned this, the Willow Pharmacy. That did not go through the proper channels with review and approval from the design committee. The city gave it a permit. No one had reviewed it. And so we asked for the documents, and what they provided was very insufficient. So we asked again, and the contractor actually came and met with us. We had a special meeting for that. We did give them some comments, and then we approved it with the comments taken into account. And so it's under construction, moving very quickly. So, but that led us to realize, okay, we need to put some checks and balances in to make sure, like Michelle said, that the city and everyone's on the same page with what is the process. There's been a lot of turnover in the city planning department, building department, and so we're working through, like that meeting that you guys were having, and we're just working through trying to coordinate that. So speaking of that, we also are looking at the UDC. We've each been given the task before our March meeting to go through the UDC and see if we can just clean up some of the language to make it a little, because there's some contradictory language in one section and the other section. So we're just looking at it and marking it up to see if we could just clarify, bring it to the city council to say, we would like to clarify this so that it's easier to understand for everyone, so that everyone understands, the process and the rule guidelines and things like that. So we're all working through that on our own right now. We did also review the North Oaks rehab at the old Harley-Davidson building. So that was one of those where Jeffrey Smith and I recused ourselves, and then we didn't have, because we work for Holly and Smith and we're designing it, so we couldn't vote on it. So then we did not have a quorum because we didn't have enough people. So we just reviewed it, and they're going to come back to the next meeting in March to get approval on that. But it's going to be a great asset to downtown. It really is going to be. Yes.
So if you had 8 people at the meeting?
One committee member wasn't there.
Two, actually. 'cause
Two
Oh,
weren't
I
there.
see.
Yes,
Okay.
so 2 were absent.
So what you need for a vote to pass would be a majority, right, of the members there.
Right.
And then you didn't have that with 2 people.
Right, with the 2 were absent, and then the 2 of us who were there couldn't vote, right, but we were happy that they, and actually, I was in a subsequent meeting with North Oaks the following week, and I mentioned, they were mentioning about it being presented to the DDD, and they said, oh, well, we have some fencing, and we have this, and I said, please bring it back, please come present it, so. It was a good conversation. And then we do have another special set meeting tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, to review the Church's Chicken, some upgrades to Church's Chicken. So we've been busy. That's what we've been doing, and we're reviewing that UDC, and hopefully we can work with Michelle and get that kind of clarified and bring that to the city council and kind of clean that up a little.
And really too with the pre-application review committees, since we'll be working closely with Frankie on that. Like if you look in the UDC, from a staff member's perspective, to look at what the DDD is, you have to look, there's our ordinance, but you have to look in like 3 or 4 different places within the UDC. So I know she's looking through some cleaning things up as it is, and so just making it easier for people to see between all the developments and our standards that we have. I think will be good for us too.
Just so it's clear of which group, like what the DDD does, what the Historic Commission does, what the city, just so that it's very clear to everyone, so. All right, that's my report.
Any other questions for Mary? Any comments from the public? All right, so next up, we have you, Hillary, for the events.
Hi, so this was my first committee meeting. It was very good, actually. It was really productive. So we went over how we will collaborate with Alec Griffith to kind of, instead of taking the spring concert series and starting from scratch and reinventing that wheel, we are trying to build with him off of what he's already doing so well. And so we had a really good discussion with that. A lot of the ideas were thrown around, and we're still just, working with that to see what is the best route with that. We also went over our 2025 event dates, just so everybody was aware with what was upcoming. And then a big topic was Hot August Night with the headliner. So if anyone has any headliners that they think we might be interested in, we would love to hear it. But we're still searching. We don't want to repeat the same thing every time. So I'm still learning. It was a very great first meeting for me. And, I'm looking forward to the next one.
What about Taylor Swift? You can get her?
No, I don't think it's in our budget. Michelle was very adamant about the budget.
She might bring some people to Hammond.
I could talk to
We
you
could
about this
probably get a Taylor
offline,
Swift
but there's
box.
Yeah.
there's a really good band in New Orleans that they're from my hometown.
Okay,
My
great.
friends' kids. But they play Jazz Fest, they have a music festival every fall, and
Right.
they might
Well, that's
be-
what we're looking
they
for,
might be a
someone,
good,
I could shoot
draw.
Eddie better a text, see what they do.
Cool.
Actually have his phone number.
Any other comments or questions for Hillary? If not, any comments from the public? All right, next up, we got, ooh, that's me, farmer's market. All right. So, we had a year in review. We had a really good turnout from a lot of the market peeps, and I wish I had all the stats in front of me to go over, but the main deal is there's has been so much growth with that market, and it's very impressive, which some of our market people are here today. So you have a lot to be proud of, and they you can tell they take pride in their businesses. This past year, you know, there was new things that they had to do, you know, as far as we, you know, have new guidelines and things. So that was a lot of focus this year, and a lot of change going on. One of the challenges right now is that we're not allowed to have the market in the street near the post office. Although hopefully will be short-lived when we get to the pavilion, but there's still a lot of uncertainty, and we talked about what to do until then. We're still kind of discussing ways to make that a little bit better, because there's a little bit of an issue with just the separation of the vendors across the street. Although business is still good, there's still a feeling that people aren't staying around as long to mingle, eat there, because of that separation, and just not as much continuity. So that's kind of been a hot topic. That's a to be continued as we're working to see if anything can be done. And then we went over safety plan as far as if there's anything that happens crazy in the market. I think the DDD is going to buy a fancy fire extinguisher to handle grease fires. That was on the deal.
A megaphone.
Oh, and a megaphone, yep. And you can fill in at any point, because my memory is not always the best.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Budget, we talked about budget a little bit, where to put funds as far as marketing. We decided to promote that maybe the dollars would be better used to do more targeted marketing on social media with the money that we have. So they decided on how much to allocate.
Of the remaining budget. So
Of
one
the
thing
remaining
that-
budget, yes.
One thing that
Sorry.
most of our committees, like events, marketing, like design, you have budget allocation. So at our March meetings, we'll be looking at those specific line items for each of them, including the farmer's market for 2026.
And then was preliminary discussion just about the dynamics of moving to the downtown pavilion and working that out. And, you know, that's very preliminary as far as how many people can fit and how to strategically make that work the best. Do you want any more comments on that? Or?
Well, under the covered area, I think it's around 36 feet under there. If you basically put two booths between each of the columns that are there, total, I think 56 fit in that parking mall. So most Saturdays, our normal market vendors will be able to fit there. One thing that we will include in the request for like the formal reservation of the space for every Saturday is the ability to use that green space, and just so that we have kind of more overflow, whether it be seating or otherwise, in that area. I did meet with Jonathan Wong yesterday, and he is supportive of us engaging in some kind of arrangement to utilize the restrooms at the mezzanine once the market moves over there. So as a permanent option, I know we still have to look at sort of what a permanent option would be, but for the meantime, not having to rent portable restrooms or get a trailer out there and have that be sitting there all the time, I'm glad that he's willing to hear us out on it. Something we will have to pay for, so I'll have a better idea about that in preparation for the March committee meeting. I did meet with the postmaster last week, actually, and we went ahead and submitted a request to the city again to close the street for the market. I let the mayor know that we would like to request the street to be closed, and if they approve for the street to be closed, then we can send that to the postmaster and see how it works out from there.
Oh, so the postmaster's giving good vibes that it's possible?
I wouldn't say she's
Based on
giving me
the
good
guy-
vibes, but we're just following a process. So if we
Gotcha.
request the closure again, the city approves it, we can deliver that city has approved this request, and we'll see how she responds.
All right, cool. And then another thing on the list, there was a brief conversation about just updating guidelines to have a line item about just a general culture and conduct of the vendors at the market. It is an interesting dynamic that everybody is, they're working in their own businesses. However, they're all under the envelope of the farmer's market. And in the world that we live today, where there's social media and things, if somebody has maybe a problem with the farmer's market and they maybe speak negatively of it, that could affect all their counterparts that are also doing business. So we just talked about some general terminology, just to kind of have on record for conduct. And then I think, is there anything else that I'm missing that you can think of?
We have some committee members here if they'd like
Is
to.
anybody would like to comment? But
I met with her on this past Friday, and then we submitted the request to the city on Friday as well. The city was closed on Monday, so we're basically waiting for that approval from the city, and then we would deliver that to her. So as soon as we have that in hand, we would deliver it to her. As soon as we get it, then we will let you know.
mail's taking 10 to 14 days now. So can you imagine how this response was taken? Okay. All right, any other comments from the group? All right.
I will say that if we get it this week, if we get it tomorrow, we're already in Wednesday, but if we do get it tomorrow, then once we deliver that to her, as soon as it is feasible to close the street, then we would try to do that. But without having the approval from the city and delivering that to her, it's hard to give a timeline to it.
But it's something, once it happens, you can pretty much go with it. You don't have to wait for any.
Need to have her respond.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's still in progress. So no promises, but we're doing what we can to reaffirm that in the best interest of the market is to close the street.
Okay. All right, no additional comments on that. The next up would be Chance Merchant Committee.
Yeah, we had our merchants meeting, and it was kind of good to get everybody back together. We did, of course, a presentation of the website. Some of them hadn't seen it before. The merchants feel really good about it, and I think some of them were actually educated to see the ease of use of it, as far as things that resources you can find for businesses and for users. So that was good. And I know we're going to talk about committee. I have a full committee, but I'm pretty sure that Abby's probably overloaded. So we'll talk about that when we get down the road on that. And we're just trying to get the merchants committee to be a little more engaged. And that might be something that Ashley's group about selling merchandise, including, other businesses, that the merchant committee should be able to take up, that we probably should have discussed that day. And also, outside of that, that was pretty much what we got accomplished. Everybody was kind of in a waiting period since we hadn't had a meeting in a couple of months, so. And then we also discussed, and this isn't really directly related to the merchants committee, but some of them are on board, because we want to take a deeper dive into our retreat, the SWOT analysis that we did, and we want to, at our next meeting, we want to take a deeper dive into that SWOT analysis and see what things that we can really focus on in that committee. we can maybe pick out one or two things that we can really get going with that. So that's what we have with that.
All right. Any questions for Chance?
Quick about Restaurant Week.
Oh, yeah, Restaurant Week. So we are looking at doing that in September. Jonathan, myself, and Alfonso, who discuss all that, we're going to have another meeting on our next meeting for that is on March 12th. Well, we may meet before then, and we're looking for support from the DDD on that for basically advertising it and seeing what we need to do. And they're not 100% sure that they just want it to be a week. They kind of still might be leaning toward making it the whole month. And I know she had mentioned September 20th was the event that's going to be going on down here, that we might try to encapsulate it if we do just that week, to surround it with that week. But once we have that next meeting with them, I'll have more information.
Have any of the new restaurants coming to town been engaged on that to know that that could be happening, or?
Well, I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same owners, new restaurants.
Okay, yeah.
So.
I didn't know the Bento, the Depot guy.
Yeah, and they're kind of aware. This is a project that's been trying to take off.
So everybody knows about it. And then-
Well, there was a restaurant week that was kind of deceiving, that wasn't what we were trying to go for a restaurant week. We want this to actually be focused on the restaurants doing their own thing, creating their own menus, as opposed to just like restaurant activities. So people are coming in, have basically a prefix menu.
Yeah.
And whether you want to do it for lunch and dinner, whatever it may be. But they might even think they want to do it for the entire month. So that's our next topic to discuss, and then to get the DDD support on helping promote it. It really wouldn't be a cost to the DDD so much as maybe a little bit of advertising cost,
Marketing.
minimal advertising cost, mostly social media. But the restaurants themselves promoting it, some posters in people, that type of stuff. So not a large cost.
While I'm thinking about that, this is just a question, not directly to that, but as far as like, whatever our budget is for targeted ads, let's say, would it be conducive to separate the budget for the different, whether it's restaurants, gift shops, service industries, to kind of give everybody almost give everybody a little bit of that pie to promote throughout the year? Is that
So we will
something
be
do, or-
taking a deep dive into the
Okay.
marketing advertising budget at
I
our
know that's your
March meeting.
thing, but I just thought about that.
Because really, like, in terms of, like, that line item alone, it's like we have some existing contracts, but we can be more specific about what we're allocating for in other marketing efforts. So I think it's something to consider, like how we want to have our budget inform what our advertising efforts look like. So that's kind of the goal, is to kind of have that whole conversation.
And then it also gives opportunity for exposure for all the different, to where it's not heavy
Different
on one side, or.
campaigns that kind
yeah.
of target.
That's on our agenda
Okay.
for the year, yeah. So
I just-
that can be a part of it, to have a whole marketing strategy around restaurant month.
Yeah, and then one thing that he kind of brought up, just to mention, I know that we may have talked about it in passing, but Terry Adams is having a documentary produced for his career, and we have been working with him for the past 8 months to secure the Columbia Theater for the screening, and then he would host a Flatland Jam in Zimmery Park near the skate park. We actually submitted an application to Tangi Tourism for a sponsorship request. They had a meeting today at noon, so I have not heard back from them yet, but hopefully I'll hear back tomorrow to see if that has been honored. He has other folks that are willing to financially participate, but he is really excited to work with us on that, and since it's kind of been not like official just because of the financing part of it, I haven't mentioned it too much, but as we look at the rest of the year, between our advertising and marketing and our events committee, that will kind of be looped into something that we'll be doing, because he really would like for us to co-host it with him. So he has like Red Bull, Raising Cane's have sponsored him. He's like committed to selling out the Columbia Theater, which is 800 seats. And if any of you know Terry Adams, then you know that he's probably going to sell out all the seats in the Columbia Theater, because he's pretty passionate about it. But so more to come on that, but that has taken up quite a bit of my time. At the start of this year, we're trying to get Tangi Tourism to participate in that, and they've been involved with
So
it
this
as
is just an
well.
event pushing his documentaries, or what it is?
So it would be a Flatland Jam in the morning, which would, international writers, writers all from throughout the United States would come. It would be like a jam is not really a competition, but it kind of sets the stage for maybe something that can happen annually or every other year, with some of the leads that Terry has. Flatland's actually part of the International Union of Cyclist Sports now, and they would like to have an international event. So this is kind of setting, I think potentially could be setting us up to host
One of
more
the-
regular Flatland experiences, because one thing we do have in Hammond is it's a flat land. So, and obviously Terry is like a Hammond native. He like always claims Hammond and has really built his career around here. The documentary will actually have footage from like the late 90s, early 2000s of Hammond, like on a like home video footage. So that's going to be incorporated throughout the documentary. So really looking forward to it, supporting him and getting that
Cool.
downtown.
Awesome. All right, do we have any questions from the public? Any comments? All right, if not, we will go to residential committee. Todd.
All right, so we finally had our meeting on February 4th of this month, and due to the holidays, our meeting, we don't meet as often, we meet every other month because residential is not nearly as important as events and all the other things we do here. Although
saying
we have
not
a very,
important.
although we have a very passionate group of people who attend that meeting. I think our biggest topic of discussion was the things that we've requested from the city that haven't quite happened yet. And I think we're all learning a very valuable lesson in the fact that the wheels of government turn at the pace they turn at. They don't turn as quickly as we'd like them to turn. The good news is we requested that I set up a meeting with the mayor, and I do have that set, but unfortunately it's not until tomorrow at 9 a.m., so I can't give you the details of that. But by listening to tonight's agenda, I'm really happy to see that a lot of things that we've been talking about in that committee were listed on tonight's other things, like as far as DOT striping is concerned, traffic calming measures. These are all the things that keep coming up inside of our meetings because we're all residents of downtown or nearby downtown. So my meeting with the mayor tomorrow will probably address the things that we haven't covered in tonight's meeting of the progress with this work chart. I'm really excited about this work chart.
I would still mention the other ones to him.
I will, yeah, no, I absolutely will. But I think the key is we're gonna focus on the ones that I know are not gonna happen. But I think even if we go back to our committee and we say, hey, guys, look, we address striping with the DOT, but they're just gonna develop a plan this year and maybe institute it next year. You're not giving them a lot of information, but this is the way the wheels of government turn, and it's really hard to understand that. I make a business decision, I can do it like that because it's my business, I do what I choose. I go to a city and I say, I need you to do something, they go, okay, we gotta run it through this committee and that committee, and we gotta run it by legal. It just takes a while to make the wheels of government turn. And I think that's one of the things that the residents aren't as patient and understanding.
Well,
I guess it's our.
There still is plenty of other striping that is on the city side.
I agree
that still
100%,
needs to be
and
done.
that is definitely on my
Ma-
agenda with the mayor tomorrow.
And my question would be not so much just saying we need all these things done. I would want to know, we were sent every garbage can a year ago. Like, where is the stopgap? Is it because things are slow for whatever reason? And then the other question for me,
100%.
who am I supposed to be talking to for this to get this done? And if it doesn't get done, what is it?
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Like, we need to figure out the system.
You know, the
There is
first
a
meeting that
system.
Michelle and I had with the mayor in regards to that, the first two questions I asked the mayor was, okay, number one, tell me if there's a financial reason we can't accomplish this, and tell me if there's a personnel reason why we can't accomplish this. I'm a business person, so I
Right.
approach things from a business perspective. And if it's a labor problem, I've got people I can send out to change trash can liners. I can talk to the merchants in downtown Hammond who own restaurants who want to see things happen, and we can chip in some money if we have a financial reason why it can't happen. So I'm not the guy who sits and listens to excuses. The issue is trying to get the departments to implement the things that we request. Takes time, unfortunately. And we're not always the top priority. So that's just the wheels of government, my friend. It's just the way it works.
I will say, that meeting was before I had my 4-hour meeting with Charles. So I do feel that, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how the mayor responds to some of those additional items. But at least in terms of regular communication, everything with planning department, the building department, the review side, maintenance is obviously still something that we need to look at. But I do feel like we're in a much better
Yeah, so, and I'm using the garbage can just as a thing, but for example, for that, now, since we last talked, we are taking the role of making an interactive map so everything can be tracked. So is it gonna be our role to report those things from that, or is that something that Charles is, or?
So
or,
basically,
like,
we.
where do we start and stop, I guess?
We report to him. This is what
Okay,
he communicated to me. Email is the best form of communication. And submit our request directly to him, and he will forward those requests to the appropriate department heads. And then he said he would copy me, and we would be able to coordinate from that point. Now, I have sent probably 15 emails between the time I met with him and today.
Yeah, 'cause there's a
and I
build-up,
have
yeah.
not heard back from him. But he affirmed that that was the best process for us to submit items to the city.
and do we,
And if we find that that's not working, then it may need to change.
well, and then the other thing is just typically when having a conversation, what is the expectation that I can have that I will get some type of response that this was forwarded on or whatever, I would, just in that
Right.
communication, so,
Yeah.
so especially if it's
Clarity
not
on that
happening.
end, yeah.
Red receipt.
That I know that it just isn't a mistake that it was missed or whatever. Should I hear from you in 72 hours, 48 hours, 24 hours? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Or-
That's it from me.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Any comments from the public? All right. Let's talk about the retreat recap business.
Yes, so on February 7th, which was just less than 2 weeks ago, we had our retreat in here. And this in your packet is kind of the summary of the SWOT that we did. And then we went ahead and grouped our master plan strategies and our existing work into our 4-point approach buckets for members of the public. We're an accredited Main Street program, and there are some additional reporting requirements that Main Street America has. And so the 4-point approach is kind of a framework that they are encouraging us to use to organize our work in organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality. Some of these upcoming conversations you may not know anything about, so feel free to ask questions if you have any. And so when we look at kind of our organizational history, we haven't always used those 4-point approaches as Main Street has asked us to. So recognizing that we've had an existing master plan, and it may not be totally comprehensive of the work that we have ongoing and what we would like to do, we kind of brought all of those ideas together in the retreat, and this document is kind of a summary of that. So with that being said, the biggest takeaways or top items that we wanted to work on was first kind of looking at our city leadership, looking at really leveraging what we can and working with the city, as that's a thread that kind of goes throughout all of the work that we're trying to do. And we're in a much better position now from where we were with just, getting on a better page with new employees as they kind of come in and as people get trained, kind of always making sure that we're educating and informing about our folks about downtown because the turnover in the city is high. So I know it's frustrating for everyone to hear like, why hasn't this thing been done? But I feel like I've reintroduced the Downtown Development District to city employees like dozens of times. So it's just kind of the nature of the work. But I feel like I said, progress has been made. As mentioned, the adoption of our master plan is one thing that has not been done by the city council, and per our statute, it is put in there that the city council adopts our master plan. So despite technically not having that formally adopted by the council, we have still used it as a document, and it actually has been kind of utilized by the city as well to help fund initiatives. But I feel, at least in a collaborative sense, that, you know, in our 2022 master plan, 2002 master plan, we had the pavilion on the master plan. So there's certain themes that have been in there for decades. So the year being 2019 isn't necessarily outdated, but wanting to make sure that we reaffirm that these strategies and items that are listed in our master plan still resonate with us as our development, a redevelopment program for downtown. We talked about demonstrating our annual impact, specifically, obviously, for last year, to our elected officials, including the council and other groups, especially since we are part of a state coordinating program, making sure that our state officials are aware of the work that we're doing here and how that contributes to their district. And then kind of hand in hand with city relationships, coordinating with departments. The items that came up more for our master plan strategies were build complete streets and safe intersections, and our celebrate and commemorate Hammond's history, and foster the culture and arts component that's within our master plan. So those are kind of the main things that we kind of took away from that retreat to try to get us a little bit more fine-tuned for 2025. And kind of building on another requirement that Main Street has for us is to select a transformation strategy, which is a word that we can kind of use to describe the work that we're doing. And a word that we landed on was hospitality. That relates to our rebrand that we did in 2024. Making sure that downtown is a place for our business owners, our residents, our visitors, that it's welcoming and inviting to all, and everything from the streetscape, whether it's walkable for all people, whether in a stroller or a wheelchair or they're using their two legs, that can be considered hospitality to make sure that it's welcoming to them, all the way to looking at, our businesses that we have, how representative are we of minority populations for our business owners, but also just generally making downtown a place that people want to visit, they want to be. So hospitality rang to us as the transformation strategy to kind of center our work around. And that's kind of the recap for our retreat. So if there's any additional comments that people have related to this write-up in particular, or questions from the public people have about this, be happy to answer them now.
Any comments? All right.
The next thing, we'll get into a little bit more details about everything.
All right. You're going to talk about the adoption of the transformation strategy?
Yes. So, as mentioned, we landed on hospitality as our transformation strategy, and this plan that you see here, hyperlinked in your packet, basically takes a look at those main points that we decided upon So master plan adoption and demonstration of downtown impact, build complete streets and safe intersections, commemorate and celebrate Hammond's history, foster the arts. And there's obviously some ongoing work that we have that we're not going to ignore, so there's a couple of additions on here. But basically what this does is it organizes our work by master plan strategy and then the most important tasks underneath each of those, with a target date column, a staff lead, a board lead, and then a committee involvement column. So this is a new document for everyone. This is kind of to be discussed with each committee as how we kind of create stronger work plans around each of these things. But with just kind of like as an overview for our work, this is kind of what Main Street will be looking at us to have stronger developed for work plans. So technically, the next agenda item is to consider adoption of our transformation strategy, which is hospitality, which is kind of a standalone, but this document kind of goes into supporting the implementation of what that kind of looks like.
We need a motion to adopt that transformation strategy?
They are requesting that I upload an extract of the minutes for the adoption of the
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the transformation strategy as presented.
How do I pull the damn thing
Does anybody want a second?
up? I'll second it. Can we just have a second? But I will second and I'm looking at it, but there's a couple things.
So I will say that, so let me backtrack a little bit before we move forward with adopting it.
Yeah.
The transformation strategy alone is hospitality. So as defined, as downtown is the heart of the city, our goal is to ensure our downtown is welcoming, inviting to all, embodying a true spirit of hospitality rooted in Hammond's history. So that kind of takes several of our master plan strategies, a lot of the language that we have in our rebrand, and kind of takes it all together and puts it together. By adopting hospitality as our transformation strategy, we're not signing up technically to this whole document, or it's not being set in stone. I just want to make sure that that is clear. I had to put it all in here so that I'm not giving you all like 15 documents to look at. And this is something that we will reference in our committees and we'll reference in future board meetings so that we can all stay on track and look at things in one place. But basically the layout of the tasks, the committee involvement, the board lead and the staff lead, that's kind of all up for discussion. But I put it in here so that you can kind of see tactically what does it look like to implement these things that we already talked about at the retreat.
All right, so we had a motion.
So we're voting basically on that the transformation strategy is hospitality.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. I'll second.
I'm going to see if anyone has any
Yep, so does anybody have any questions, comments on that? Anybody from the public?
What page, like, my plan of work doesn't look like your plan of work.
Did you see that?
See, there's tabs.
It does
on
look
the bottom.
different.
Oh, wait. No. Okay, somebody come help. I don't know if it matters.
He's gonna have to get back to the original.
I have two different plan of works. Well,
Hang on, you
what
gotta
was
go
there?
back to the- Go back to the,
What was there? but-
okay.
We hit that. Now, go to the bottom tabs right there.
There we go. Is that what I'm missing?
Yeah,
Okay,
that should be.
all right, there we go. Sorry, y'all got so fancy on it.
Okay,
We could
so,
just have paper, you know?
well, that was the whole reason of getting these iPads, so that we wouldn't have to do this. But I think once we get this solidified, this is something that we can print out and reference. Okay, so we have a motion on the table
I'll second.
from Mary, seconded by
Chance.
Chance.
Any vote?
Justin Cash,
Yay.
Todd DeLon,
Yes.
Chance Kinchin,
Yes.
Mary Gito,
Yes.
Kayla Morgan,
Yes.
Donna Knishis.
Yes.
Hillary Rochek.
Yes.
So basically, kind of moving forward with developing work plans within each committee as it relates to these items is kind of our next step. Just so, I guess, folks are aware of what that kind of looks like. This is available on our website, linked in the packet if you're curious. But some of our ongoing work here as it relates to some of these initiatives is listed, and then honing more in, like I said, to our complete streets, safe intersections, aligning with some state-dedicated funds for street and drainage improvements, looking at capital outlay requests, collaborating with the Regional Planning Commission under Commemorate and Celebrate Hammond's History, really having a dedicated group that is researching and compiling that information so that we can build out materials for that. And like I said, each of these groups would kind of need to look at stronger work plans, foster the arts through cultural activities, some new things on there like partnering with local event organizers, but our existing work too, with our annual events portfolio is under there. So basically, these are task-wise. If we get these done this year, then we're actually doing what we say we're going to do. But we'll be looking at more or less adopting those work plans in our March meeting as we look at having all of our committees kind of parse out those scopes of work. So just kind of just a framework for us organizationally to look at. Yeah.
All right. Any questions about that? All right. Comments from the public? All right. Next up, Michelle. What's next? You got the
Consider, are you
master
going to
plan.
say it?
Huh?
Are you going to say it?
Yeah, the master plan. Sorry.
Can you say what the actual item is?
Consider adoption of 2025 master plan.
No, so consider 2025 amendment to 2019 master plan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So obviously, like I said, when we had this master plan done, it was in 2019, and we would like to reaffirm that, like I said, this plan works for us. It still kind of meets the vision of what we're looking to accomplish in downtown. Part of that is re-administering the community survey that we had done in 2019 and getting responses from our community that is representative of our population. We have had the survey open for maybe a little bit over a month now, and we have 211 responses here. As mentioned, like in our retreat, the most important things that come up for people when they think about downtown is building on our vacant or underused land and then improving walking conditions. That was the same top two in 2019. It resonates as the same top two for 2025. So I don't anticipate that changing too much, but one thing that I think is important to note is the demographics of the people who have completed this survey thus far. Several of these are word clouds. So far we've had great responses from 195 people on this one at least, but over 90% report that they are white, and then age I feel is pretty good spread out for our actual population. But household income is more reported between 100,000 or over 150,000, which is not representative of the city of Hammond, if we're being honest. And so I think in good faith, I did distribute this to the council members, and really we want to have anyone who uses downtown, who visits downtown, sees themselves in downtown, specifically if they're residents, they're citizens of the city of Hammond, we want them to feel like downtown is a place for them. And so I personally don't feel that agenda items B, C, or D are appropriate for us to approve tonight, because I would like for us to keep the survey open and have stronger engagement efforts to have some additional outreach to other groups.
Yeah, so talk to me how they're currently being outreach to. How is the survey being sent? Email, website?
We've posted on our social, it's on our website. We've done newsletter. I had y'all
Individually emailed different clubs that we have already have a list of.
Email, So Social, Girls Club, Hammond Girls Club, Fit Fam. I also emailed the library, they're supposed to be printing out, the QR code you'll get
So-
from the desk.
So who is this going out to? Anybody that's living within the DDD? Or anybody that's,
I got it. I got it at work.
anybody? It just can be anybody.
That is familiar with our downtown area at all.
So it can be anybody.
Yeah.
There's also people who are taking it that don't live here, because some of the, if you look at one of the word clouds, you can see we have a specific question about what zip code people live in, and some people from Ponchatoula, they have a Ponchatoula zip code that pops up. So it's not just people in Hammond that are taking it.
Some other
It's
question-
anybody who visits comes to downtown.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I was saying, if it's all through computer, like, do we have a physical form of a fill out that we can bring to any type of, you know, whether it's a church meeting or bingo day or whatever?
Actually, I forgot to discuss with you, you're at a meeting somewhere.
I think I had already discussed it with her and
For the senior
The
center.
senior center,
Yeah.
yeah, we want the senior center to take it, but I've someone that worked at the senior center for a couple of years. They need it printed out.
Right.
Like, if we try and get these.
I need things printed out
Yeah.
sometimes. So that's what I'm saying. Some people might just not want to be on the computer and do this. Like, I mean,
It takes 4 minutes to fill it out, yeah.
Well, I think one thing we have done in the past is we've done like an administered survey, so we could go with an iPad and then we can have them ask the questions and then record their responses for them.
Can we have the downtown merchants do something where it's like they have a POP, which is like a point of purchase, where it has like, fill out our survey, scan this to fill it out, and your name goes in to win? I mean, could you incentivize something around it? Maybe it's a sweatshirt. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, people will probably more likely do it if there's someone in it. And also, I think if we utilize the merchants, the coffee shops, where people are going in there, had a QR code up there, you guys can create that with the new branding, and then,
That's one thing that I had talked to Dare about too, because she used to work with the library. So one place, I think it's another important place for us to do that, at least like a QR code or something, so people can see it or, know that it exists, is like have the library display that as well, because they are a community center and a lot of people do go there. And they have a lot of different people that visit the library within our community. So I think that's a good spot to put it, that we've discussed. But I do think we should be spreading
I
it
think
around a little bit.
places that people gather.
I'm also thinking like churches, like you can get them involved or something, because I mean,
Oh, you definitely could. You could get Grace Memorial.
Like, I love the idea of an incentive, like win a sweatshirt, right? That's something small, but people
Tell,
do it.
Andre, tell me about government prizes. Yes.
I could, yeah. Could you incentivize them with a sweatshirt if they take the survey? A chance to win a sweatshirt?
You can't donate public property. You can't donate money. So there's got to be a contemporaneous exchange of value. So if you give something, you've got to get something. Now, it doesn't have to be to the penny. Some things you can't quantify right by dollar bill, but there's got to be a reasonable expectation of receipt of value for whatever you give for public. Sound like a lawyer answer.
Yeah.
so is the value that we got this many, say, that we got an input, like, does it have to be a monetary value or can it be a value of information?
Well, the sweatshirt is $50.
Yeah, I mean, that $50 is a bit, I mean.
Well, we can give them
A tote bag is $5 cost. Does that sound more?
they're gonna do it for a tote bag?
Maybe getting a raffle. That
Yeah.
If you respond to the survey, your name goes into a raffle for you giving up
Or
tote bags.
I'd donate $50.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
a
could the
sweatshirt.
merchants donate
The
something
donates,
for it?
donate,
Yes.
like, I mean, I donate $50.
So what we'll do-
As long
I'll
as it's not
donate
money or coming from
The
the
deed.
public body.
Got it, okay. So we could get the merchants to,
Yeah.
Luma could donate like several people if they
Buy
said
it-
they would.
buy
What we'll
it
do
for-
tomorrow is we'll print these out and we'll have to distribute these. We'll,
Send us the electronic version of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
We have 10,000 followers on
Yeah, I was-
Facebook.
Yeah.
A quarter of them
Distribute that.
I think
on our own
we
socials.
did send, didn't we send it all to all
Well,
of our
but-
committee
but-
members?
but
and
we
before-
did, but we didn't send a graphic.
Oh, okay.
Because you want it to be on
But I
brand, you
would
want it to.
Put on there something about, a chance to win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would need to.
Or, yeah.
We
Yeah,
can
we
update.
Or each merchant could be like, hey, you fill out this survey and
Yeah, I can give something away.
I could give
My
something
private
away.
funds, right?
out of my private, you know, say, hey, you fill this out and you get,
Yeah,
I don't know, you get
yeah.
a bucket of ice.
I mean, that's what I was thinking from the beginning, and I just didn't want to put y'all on the spot.
We'll edit this to have, fill it out to enter a raffle.
Can you do a Facebook
Yeah.
targeted ad with the link?
Yeah.
Because then you can target the demographics that you need to fill it
I
out.
think like personal
Or just
outreach.
put
I think that
right?
creates a bias,
Okay.
Downtown Hammond merch.
in my opinion.
All right.
Is it on, I mean, what,
When you're targeting.
is it on?
You can scan that right now if you want with your phone. I think we need to redo the graphics. We need to update. We can
I mean,
update it.
I could send that out on my social media.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, like.
We will send out graphics tomorrow. We will distribute print items, and we'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I could have a in-house giveaway.
We'll do something.
We did use,
I mean, it doesn't look bad, but the QR code's really small. There's just a few things I'd change.
Okay, so.
yeah, it was just a
So,
adaptation of the thing that you did make, but.
in the spirit of, I realize we want to get this information, but in the spirit of not continuing to kick this down the road as far as presenting it to city council and stuff, what is our goal date to get this information together and that we can vote on it?
So in this
What do you think is,
plan of work, the survey closes on the 28th, so that basically gives us a week of like getting people the message and completing it. At our next board meeting, which is March 12th, I anticipate that we would be able to basically have these 3 items on that agenda.
okay?
And then feasibly with a request to the council, and more than likely meeting with some of them in advance of requesting it be on the agenda. I would say, late April. They meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month, so the 22nd would be one that I think is, I'll also be out of town for the 8th, but I think the 22nd would be, April 22nd.
Okay, so let's talk about that. As far as getting in front of the council members, is it important that everyone gets a conversation about what this is so they understand it, and who would be the one meeting with them? Is that something
I
that-
think that it is more appropriate for me and I mean, it has to be 3 members or less to meet with them. I think it can be 2 members, but at least me, maybe chair, vice chair, or if there's another.
Right. Yeah, if you want to just bring us in so that we know, and we try and get everybody, so there's nobody that doesn't know about this.
Yeah, and I don't envision doing that until we have our March board meeting. So
Yeah.
it would be between March and March 12th and the 22nd of April.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comments on that?
I mean, I guess you
agree.
could make a motion to table those.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table.
Well, do-
Do I need to state what each of them is?
Well, I don't.
Okay, to table, under new business, the consider 2025 amendment to the 2019 master plan. Can I do it all together?
But let me ask you a question. Do we have to even do that? Because it's just saying considering. We considered, but we haven't done anything with it. You have to table every one of them? I'm just curious.
It's up to you. There's no action taken.
Yeah, there's no action on this.
Uh,
so There's nothing to table.
So, do you have a record of the 2019 approval of the master plan?
The board approved it in December of 2019. The council it was never put on a council.
In 2019?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was looking up to look at the minutes of the council meetings. That's going to determine whether the council approval is by ordinance or by resolution. So once you guys approve your plan, then I'm going to consult with the council president to see what his preference is, whether the council takes it up by ordinance or by resolution.
And what is that? Can you explain the difference?
Yes. So
Okay.
ordinance is a two-step process where an item is introduced, then at the next meeting, it's set for a public hearing and final adoption. Resolution is something that happens all at one meeting.
Okay.
The charter doesn't require it to be done by an ordinance, so that becomes a preference of the council,
And what-
through the council president,
Okay.
to determine if you'd rather have this come up by an ordinance or come up by resolution.
Okay.
if there was a prior master plan that was approved by an ordinance, then I'd suggest it would have to be an ordinance, because you're basically updating an ordinance. And I was looking in 2019, I haven't seen it yet,
Yeah,
so it's
it
not, I'm
was
not gonna
never-
find it in 2019.
Yeah, it was never added.
But there was one in there was a previous master plan that was an ordinance prior? Or
The master plan for the DDD prior was 2002.
was it an
A
ordinance?
record of that?
Of it approved by the council? I'd
Yes.
have to go back and look.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking up the old council minutes now to try to figure in 2019, I didn't see it yet, so.
Yeah,
I'm-
I know that our 2019 master plan was never put before council.
Okay, well, we look at 2022, and I can ask Lisa to check to see if there's a record of how it was approved by
No,
resolution.
2002.
excuse me,
2002.
Okay, and ordinance carries more weight just because there's more input?
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean,
goal.
an ordinance is basically law. Resolution is a will, but under the charter, there are things that can be done, that must be done by ordinance. And then it says anything else can be by ordinance or resolution. And at that point, it really becomes the preference of the council and the council president, whether he would want to have it as an ordinance, which basically requires more of a notice to the public, really a formal public hearing on it, or just as a resolution.
Gotcha.
That's a preference,
Okay,
not required.
all right. So, I mean, we can table every one if y'all think we need to go through that, but I think it was just a conversation at this point because there was no vote, so.
So, for example, your agenda item might be final adoption, of master plan, and that would require some action.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I'll leave it alone.
Okay, discussion of the budget for fiscal year 2026?
The only thing I saw in here was about the pavilion. I didn't see a full budget, unless we already looked at some numbers.
So in the spreadsheet that has the transformation strategy, the plan of work, it's actually a sheet on there. So this is a document that we will reference at all future board meetings so that we can, like I said, keep ourselves on track. So if you need help getting back to that point, do let me know. I really don't have a budget proposed for 2026 yet. I wanted to kind of, like I said, have each of our committee chairs take a look at those line items underneath each of those categories and look at those at our March committee meetings. I put the email from Tom in there because that is something that we have not budgeted for in the past, and we would have to look at either dipping into our fund balance or removing funds from another area. But before I kind of get into that, just kind of to give everyone a rundown of what the process looks like. So like I said, in our March committee meetings, each committee looking at the line items that is applicable to their function, informed by some of our existing contracts, like, for example, advertising and marketing. We have an existing contract with North Shore Media Group. We know what that amount is, but we can look at what we budgeted last year and see how we either enhance that existing amount or see what we want to dedicate there. This document itself does have our current budget for 2025 and then our actual year to date and then our estimated for remaining of the year. We are still, sorry, my brain's a little blanking out. We have a couple of months left of this fiscal year, so our fiscal year runs through June 31st and our new fiscal year starts on July 1st. So we have about, I don't know how many months it is, 4 months of expenses remaining. You'll see some things on here that we haven't spent any money out of, like sidewalk improvements, for example. We had one project that we budgeted for that, and that probably will be taken care of this fiscal year with 223 East Thomas. But other items like the residential east side and the residential west side, we have project accounts dedicated to those, so if funds are not spent fiscal year to fiscal year, those get rolled into a project account so that the residential committee in particular can dedicate those funds to a larger project. Everything else is kind of mostly kind of ongoing. So, anyway, with that being said, some additional, I think, considerations related to the work that we are anticipating for this year, like I said, is kind of making the most of the pavilion project. And Tom has submitted a request to us to consider facilitating with some additional funds for overlaying the parking mall underneath the pavilion. We know that the other parking mall across from the tracks too also needs a little bit of help, so this kind of gives us a ballpark of what we would be looking at for that type of project. So I just kind of wanted to put it on everyone's radar that, where we're sitting at for our budget, pretty tightly in terms of revenue and expenditure. We kind of tightly budgeted for that this year. Our fund balance, was on the phone with Carolyn, this finance director, for way too long today to try to get some additional clarification around our fund balance, but the amount that I have listed here with the funds that we had removed for a transfer is at 393. So we have some additional funds that we can dip into that we are not getting for another form of revenue if we wanted. So we have some opportunities to look at our fund balance is basically our savings account. If we wanted to budget outside of what our revenue projections would be, anticipate that our revenue projections would basically be the same for 2026. We might see higher property taxes, but I won't get any of that firm information until our March meeting, because the assessor gives us that information. I would have preferred to present like a full budget proposal for 2026, but just time was not on my side to do that. So I kind of wanted y'all to get more familiar with our existing numbers and kind of have an understanding of where our budget is currently sitting at, and with some considerations that we have to enhance our existing programs or requests that we have. How do we kind of incorporate that in there into our planning as we look at our March meeting? We do have to approve our budget, and like Andre said, the city council approves the budget. They usually will need it by May, so we do have time between our March meeting and our April meeting. They usually ask for it early in May, so that's looped into the city's review process. And then we do sit in on the budget hearing, which usually takes place early in June. And then everything's like formally adopted late June. So anyway, that's all of those details, if you care to know them.
All right. Any questions about that? Comments from the public? All right. Next up, discussion of open committee seats.
Put this on here because I know that we have, well, Kaylee kind of mentioned it a little bit. I know that with Kaylee specifically no longer being on the board, there was an open seat for advertising and marketing. And I don't believe that any other committee has an opening, except for Merchant, if you think that Abby is.
I think Abby, I haven't talked to her personally
Yeah.
yet, and I think she was on 2 committees.
She is,
Yes.
she's on mine too.
And I just, with her being in New Orleans a lot, it's really gonna stretch her thin, and I have a full committee without her, but I could also fill the seat if I just wanted the blessing if I wanted to find somebody to fill it.
Is your committee pretty diverse as far as like what type of business?
Yeah, I
in it?
have a hair salon, I got a bar, restaurant, Bayou bookseller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got I feel pretty
Yeah.
good spread, but
Did she say that she's interested in one more than the other, or is she communicating that, or are we just kind of?
she's just so busy since she opened that
Yeah.
second location, and I don't know how many of my meetings she's gonna be able to make. Bakers do a lot of things at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But
you have a full committee without without her on it?
Yeah, because I had,
Did you add an extra person?
yeah, I just filled it up last year.
I think 7, is it 7 or 9?
I think she was 7, so I would still have 6, right?
Yeah, but we would want to have an odd number.
Yeah, but I mean, I can add another person.
Yeah.
I think I was
Well, I
at
think the
7.
more, so yeah, we can definitely like ask Abby what her wishes are and
Okay.
honor them or fill the seat at our next meeting if we need to.
Yeah, I mean, she may want to stay on it. If she does, that's
Yeah.
fine. I was just thinking of her best interest because
Yeah, for sure.
I know how shit it's banned. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
So I think knowing that we have an empty seat with advertising and marketing, Kayla has an idea of how she'd like to fill it. If you'd like to present that to the group.
Yes, so April Kemp is on the events committee right now. She's the interim marketing director, the head of the marketing department at Southeastern. So she had an interest in being on the marketing and advertising committee because it's more of her passion. It's where she can contribute more. She is a personal friend of mine, but I also am involved with the College of Business as well. So we thought it would be a great match to have her insight, especially with some of the initiatives we were talking about doing with Southeastern as well. So we wanted to possibly move her from the events committee over to the advertising.
Oh, so you wanted to steal her from her. I gotcha.
Yeah,
No,
but with
I'm just
April's
checking.
permission ahead of time, which she did tell me, she's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like I can contribute more on the marketing, advertising level than I can on the event side,
Yeah.
so.
So then we need to look for an event.
And that would fill my vacant seat, which would be ideal, with someone who I think has value and is very qualified.
So then do we need to talk, if that's the case, then we need to talk about filling your spot.
Yeah. Or we could put it out there, like
Yeah.
accepting nominations.
I mean, do you have, kind of like we did, last year we did it at the retreat. I mean, do you have some people in mind? So, look, you got to sweet talk somebody to be on this.
Is there any, like, event planning type people that have, like, event planning business within the district? that we
Or
could
the
approach
events
to-
committee, because last year we like cycled through some people for the events committee. We could probably look at our notes to see names that had been mentioned. I know that Marcy DiVittorio has actually asked about involvement. She's very passionate about events in downtown. She's one that came up. Lacey Lipford, is that her name?
Lipford, yeah.
She came up, we'd have to look at I know we have them written down somewhere, but there's like a list that I'd like to reference for us to reach out to. But also, if there's anyone that anyone would like to recommend, I think we'd like to ask them in advance before, like, putting them on the committee. But-
Lacey has a very broad group of friends in her circle that would contribute. She has a large friend group. They have a lot of parties with me. And I'm just saying
She's a natural event
yeah,
type of girl.
yeah, they do some fun stuff. But but it would also, she would be getting a lot of input from a lot of people. Look, I'm not trying to sell you on
Yeah,
it.
I think what we could do is add it onto the committee agenda for March. Because we've also looked at the seats on the committee as like strategic partners. So like Michelle Gallo with Crime Stoppers, we partner with them for Trick or Treat. Melissa Griffith with the Art Center. So yeah, I think send your recommendations to Hillary, and then we will we can discuss.
Okay, so who's on there now, just so we know kind of the
Laura
landscape?
DiMattia, Michelle Gallo, Melissa Griffin, myself, William Burris, and Alex Griffin.
Myself in the eye.
And Laura's on mine too. We have a lot of people that are, that I'm concerned maybe aren't gonna shake out this year because of
Are we
overcommitment.
overloaded?
Yeah, because like Abby's on my committee as well, and then Laura's on your
And both.
committee and my committee,
We
so.
maybe need to look at that.
But if they are, but I will say that depending on what they're, if they're still showing up to the meetings, don't shake that boat, because it's nice to be able to have that.
I'm not gonna
person.
shake it, I'm
Yeah,
just thinking
Yeah, yeah,
that there
yeah.
could be a possibility. We didn't have quorum to have my committee meeting,
Okay.
this month, so.
Yeah,
I just don't, I think Abby's spread
Yeah.
so thin right now. She's just not, and look, she wants to, but I
Oh,
just
yeah,
don't think she.
absolutely. We'll see,
physically
we're gonna
be-
go ahead and get March scheduled and try to see what people's schedules are gonna be like, and I think that might tell us a lot. There could be a potential another open seat on mine. I don't know, we'll see.
all right.
Do
Uh,
you- So we want to wait on April?
I know, I'd like to take her now, I'm just saying that. I'd like to have her in the
I'll
next
make a motion
committee
to add April Kemp to the marketing committee.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Justin
Pause.
Cash?
Wait, pause.
Yes.
Let me finish writing that, I'm so sorry. I don't have a fancy iPad right now, so I have to hand
You
write
could have mine.
it. So you make a motion to add April Kemp to the advertising marketing committee. Okay, and then Mary seconded? Okay.
Justin Cash?
Yes.
Todd DeLon?
Yes.
Chance Kinchin?
Yes.
Mary Gito?
Yes.
Kayla Morgan?
Yes.
John Xnishik?
Yes.
Hillary Rochak?
Yes.
Any other discussions about committees? All right, any comments from the public? All right, next up, we are going to, it's employee evaluation for Michelle. Michelle, would you prefer executive session to be called?
Sure.
All right, I'll make a motion to call an executive session.
Second.
Justin Cash?
Yes.
Todd DeLon?
Yes.
Chance Kinchin?
Yes.
Mary Gito?
Yes.
Kayla Morgan?
Yes.
John Xnishik?
Yes.
Hillary Rochak?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All right, see you.